Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to peel back the layers on printmaking. Now, you might think you've got it figured out, but trust me, there's this incredibly rich, complex world of art and tech hiding just under the ink. So let's jump right in. You know this image. Of course you do. It's Hokusai's The Great Wave, and it's pretty much everywhere. But I've got a question for you. Is this piece of art an original, or is it just one of thousands of copies? The answer? Well, it gets to the very heart of what printmaking is all about, and it might not be what you think.
Okay, so let's clear this up right away, because this is the most important distinction. In the art world, you have an impression and you have a copy. An impression is an original piece of art. The artist creates a master plate or block called a matrix, and every print pulled from that is considered an original work. A copy is totally different. That's just a reproduction of another artwork, like a poster of the Mona Lisa. So, The Great Wave, each one is an original impression, period.
Right. So if they're all originals, how in the world do artists make so many? How do these techniques actually work? It can seem kind of complicated, but you'll see that almost every print ever made falls into one of four basic methods.
And we're going to call these the 4 families of printmaking. Honestly, once you get this simple framework down, you can look at pretty much any print out there and have a really good idea of how it was made.
So here they are. This is our roadmap. You've got relief, intaglio, planographic, and stencil. Each one takes a completely different path to get that ink onto the paper. We're going to walk through them one by one, and we'll start with the oldest and maybe the one that makes the most sense right off the bat.
First up, relief printing. And really, the name tells you everything you need to know. The image you print is literally in relief. It's the part that's raised up from the surface.
And this is the perfect way to think about it. For relief printing, you carve away everything you don't want to show up in the final image. Just think about a rubber stamp. The ink only hits the raised letters, right? It's that simple. Now, intaglio, which we're getting to next, is the total opposite.
The absolute classic example of relief printing is the woodcut. This is the OG technique. It was first used way back in 5th century China, actually for printing patterns on fabric. Centuries later, artists like the German master Albrecht Dürer and, you guessed it, Hokusai used this exact method to create these incredibly detailed and powerful images, all by carving into a simple block of wood. All right, on to our next family. If relief was about printing what's above the surface, intaglio is all about what's below. This time, the magic happens in the grooves. That's where the ink is held.
Now, the most famous intaglio technique is etching, and it feels kind of like alchemy. It's so cool. First, you coat a metal plate in wax. Then, you just draw your design with a needle, scratching through the wax. Next, you give the plate an acid bath, and the acid bites into the metal wherever you drew. After that, you just slather it with ink, wipe the top surface clean so the ink is only in the lines, and then a super high-pressure press literally squishes the paper into those grooves to pick up the image.
So why did etching become so huge? Well, this quote nails it. Other methods, like engraving, meant you had to be a skilled metal worker to physically carve the lines. It was incredibly difficult. But with etching, hey, if you could draw, you could make an etching. And that's exactly why absolute masters of drawing, like Rembrandt and Goya, just fell in love with it.
And the intaglio family has some other cool members too. There's engraving, which gives you those super sharp, precise lines you see on money. Dry point is where you scratch the plate, and the little metal shavings that get kicked up, called a burr, hold ink and create this beautiful, soft, blurry line. That burr wears down fast though, so you can't make many. And then there's aquatint, which Goya used like a boss to create whole areas of tone, like a watercolor wash, not just lines.
Okay, for our last 2 families, we're tossing the carving tools out the window completely. First, we've got planographic printing, which is all about chemistry on a flat surface. And then there's stencil printing, which does exactly what it sounds like. It pushes ink through a screen.
Lithography is the star of the planographic show, and it is just pure, brilliant chemistry. It works on one simple, beautiful principle. Oil and water don't mix. An artist draws on a block of limestone with a greasy crown. Then the stone gets wet. When you roll oily ink over the whole thing, the ink sticks to your greasy drawing, but the water repels it everywhere else. That's it. It allowed artists like Toulouse-Lautrec to create these amazing, painterly posters that just captured the entire vibe of Paris.
And that brings us to our last family, screen printing. You might notice silk screening, and the core concept couldn't be simpler. At the end of the day, it's just a really sophisticated stencil.
The real genius of screen printing is how incredibly versatile it is. I mean, look at this. Since you don't need a massive, heavy press, you can print on pretty much anything. Paper, t-shirts, canvas, wood, even glass. And that freedom is what made pop artists like Andy Warhol go crazy for it. He could take an everyday image like a Campbell's soup can or a photo of Marilyn Monroe and turn it into high art on any surface he wanted.
So, we've covered the 4 big families. But beyond all the technical stuff, why has printmaking stuck around? What makes it such a powerful force in art for, what, over 600 years now?
It really all boils down to this one powerful idea: multiples. Before printmaking came along, art was almost always a one-of-a-kind thing, something only the super rich could afford. But suddenly you had the ability to create an entire edition of original artworks. For the very first time, more people could see, own, and be inspired by an artist's vision. I mean, it literally democratized art.
And this timeline just shows you how incredibly adaptive this whole art form is. It's constantly changing. From the first woodcuts in the 1400s, to the chemical magic of lithography, to the pop art explosion of screen printing, and yeah, all the way up to the high-quality digital giclée prints we have today. Printmaking always finds a way to meet the moment.
Which leaves us with one last question to chew on. Today, we live in a world of infinite, flawless digital copies. You can right-click, save anything. So what's the value of a physical impression? What is it about that ink being pressed into paper, the actual mark of the artist's hand? What is it about that still feels so powerful and continues to make a lasting impression on us? It's something to think about. Thanks for joining me.